Hi, I'm Ken Coleman, and welcome to the first webisode of Excuse Me While I Gush. It's the video version of the blog that I write by the same title, and the whole premise is that when I read something, when I watch something on TV or a movie, I can enthusiastically geek out. The spigot gets turned and all this information gushes out. And the blog and the video, they allow me an outlet to express my fandom. What I'm going to be talking about today is Ghostbusters, specifically the comic. Before you ask, I've mixed feelings about the trailer for the new movie and about the what I've heard of the story. But I'm going to try putting good faith in the director, the producers, the writers, the actors, that the final product that gets released will be able to fittingly live up to the reputation that the first movies, the TV show, and the video game have set forth. What I'm going to be talking about today is the comic at IDW by Erik and Dan Schoening. You're probably wondering why I'm not pulling out individual issues, and after many years of collecting X-Men, I just found the issues to be difficult to keep. I like to reread them often, and when they're not bound and collected, it can be a little disorganized. So fortunately, the Ghostbuster books are collected in these omnibuses. The first book is called Total Containment, and it looks like the containment unit. Second volume is called Mass Hysteria, and it looks like the Ghostbusters trap. I cannot imagine what the Volume 3 hardcover will look like, but so far it's titled Ghostbusters International, and I'm really into the cover art, promoting how they're working with all these different legends and folklore around the world. So overall, my favorite part of these Ghostbusters comics is that they combine all the canon into one magna canon. Everything works and it's very cohesive in how it's written. The story is taking off just after, it seems like it's after Ghostbusters 2, and it's hard to place a time frame because it's got some modern elements. I haven't seen any internet or smartphone, so I can't really pinpoint it, but I'm fine with that. It's got all these little details, which I just love as a fan. For the first thing, I'm going to show you how many of you know the background of Slimer. How, when Slimer was first created, he was a tribute to the late John Belushi. Belushi was originally going to play Peter Venkman, and when he died, they created a character that represented sort of an Animal House version of him. In this comic, Ray Stantz has a spirit guide who looks a lot like Jake Blues. He addresses Ray as brother, and I like to think that that's a cross between the nomenclature and the Blues Brothers movie. The whole spirit guide issue, it comes from how Ray has a particular connection to Gozer, and the Gozerian characters are going to play a big part in the first volume. Many parts of the movies and the TV shows. They appear throughout these books. So whether it's Janos Poha, the guy from Ghostbusters 2, he's still dealing with problems from his connection to Vigo. Old characters from the real Ghostbusters series. Janine gets into a relationship with a guy who looks more like the real Ghostbusters Egon, making the other Egon a little jealous. So the next picture that I'm going to show you is of Kylie Griffin. She's a character from Extreme Ghostbusters, which was a 90s show that I think is often underrated. In this book, she starts out as an assistant at Ray's occult bookshop and later becomes a Ghostbuster in her own right. The art style is it's a unique combination of realism and cartoon, and I've gotten really into it. Schoening is not afraid to get scary with his designs. This is his version of Slimer. And that's how he depicts Peter and Winston. It reminds me of the early episodes of The Real Ghostbusters, where the writers, the character designers, they were willing to think outside the box, and they weren't afraid to make it look very, very scary, while also being entertaining and funny. The Ghostbusters, they tend to tour around the country at a certain point in this volume, that allows them to explore different folklores, different states. And that's a nice break from the overall Gozerian story. In the second volume, we get introduced to a more diverse cast. And it starts with this parody of the Giant Size X-Men Volume 1. The leader is Janine. You've got Kylie, a federal agent, and this guy who, he was sort of the heel of the Ghostbusters story in the first volume. He was very lazy, and his knockoff Ghostbuster team were only creating a bigger mess. So Janine, in her new team, she's going to be giving him a little bit of leeway. It's a part of the mayor's initiative. So in this book, in the second volume, they get into more local folklore, some of the characters' backgrounds, and Winston, his relationship moves forward. And you'll have to see in those books what I'm talking about. They have the introduction of Sigourney Weaver's character, Dana. And if you can see in your fridge, we're used to seeing something a little bit more scary and cryptic in her fridge. This, I guess, is still cryptic. It's Luigi's fresh pizza dough. Luigi was a character from the Slimer shorts. Late in the Real Ghostbusters series, it got rebranded as Slimer and the Ghostbusters. And Luigi was this pizza chef that Slimer would help out. As Real Ghostbusters progressed, Slimer became more and more human in his behavior. and language. And Luigi became a supporting character. The last thing I'm pointing out in this video is how Burnham and Schoening are able to involve even the most out-of-this-world, way out in left field character designs. If any of you remember back in the 80s, Kenner was making some monster action figures that seemed mostly just for sale of the figures. Many of them didn't even appear in the real Ghostbusters show. So if you look at some of these, you may even recognize characters that you've had the figure of. This purple one with the eye, the eyeball was able to shoot out. I think I did have that football player one with his back becoming a mouth of a monster. Now, personally, that's what I call fan service. When you can work anything, even the most obscure, crazy stuff, into the final product, and everything works. There's even a gag about the Filmation Ghostbusters cartoon. So, that's what I have to say about the comic book. I'm a very big fan of it, and I can't wait to see the Volume 3. I'm waiting until it's all released, but I have nothing but great expectations for it. If you click down below, there's a link to my original blog of the Real Ghostbusters DVD set, which was released by Time Life quite a few years ago. But I think that it may still be available. It's only for Region 1, and what I keep on telling production companies through my blogs is that for us, the fans worldwide, our appetites for awesomeness are yet to be sated. So hopefully they can just release these great DVD sets to everyone. I like all of the creative output that is put I like all the creative input that is put into these DVDs. All the bonus features, the documentaries. The Real Ghostbusters set has maybe 4, 5, or 6 documentaries mixed into those volumes. And I just found that to be awesome. Everything I loved from that series is all there. And then there's interviews with the cast members and J. Michael Straczynski, who was leading the show early on and at the end, and would later go on to work on Babylon 5. So, enjoy these comics. I strongly suggest them, and I'm hoping for Volume 4. Even if this movie that's coming out does well, and I hope that it does, I'd love to see this canon that started out with 3 scientists and every man acting as their liaison to the people outside of their scientific world. I hope that continues in its canon. Okay. If any of you have comments on this, if you agree with me on what I'm reviewing, if you don't, if you have some great new suggestions, put them down in the comment section. I'll be glad to hear. Thank you.